Today we are unboxing and assembling the newest addition to the Portamix product lineup, the Badger Mini Mixing Station. The Badger is ideal for jobs under 25 bags or so, smaller spaces, smaller teams, actually even great for epoxies and urethanes for floor coverings like garages and more. So it features the same benefits that you've come to expect from all other Portamix products, like a removable liner for easy cleanup, more decorative flexibility, and ultimately a longer product lifespan. The Badger currently doesn't actually have a dust collection system built in, but you can actually use products like this dust hog here to attach to your vacuum and just lift it over the side to add some good dust collection. Without further ado, let's hop into unboxing this and check out what's inside. So first up, we have our motor mount adapter. It's got the foot pegs in here as well as all of our washers, bolts, and pins that we're going to need for assembly. Next up, we have our paddle, we have our axle, our two larger casters, tires. Next up, it's actually already locked in. So we have our frame and our canister. We have our monitor mount. That's going to go over the back here, and you'll have to pin it. We'll show you different settings and options for that as well. We have our two casters with bearings, pretty heavy duty. We have our two legs for the front end, and this is what you'll actually be tipping against to pour. Axle would be the two casters on either side of that. We have our mini double helix paddle. So this is M4T mount, so it should fit most standard hand mixers. And then we have a bag of bolts, washers, as well as the pins for installing those casters. So let's jump into it. Let's start with these front two. They have welded nuts on the other side for your bolts to go straight into. So I'm just gonna put those in there. My thumb tighten this so I can get the other one added on. 13 millimeter. So, okay, now that we have our feet installed, we're gonna jump into doing our axle and our wheels. So depending on when you get your unit, you could either have pins with it, these longer pins that have kind of like two little pieces that are pretty tight together, and that we're just gonna push it through and wrap it around. It goes on each side of the wheel. So you have pin, washer, wheel, washer, pin. But you might also have an R-clip. So if you do get a unit with pins and you prefer an R-clip, I actually just picked up these from the hardware store. Future units will come with these standard. This one is, for size reference, 5/64 by 1 9/16. So what I would do is put...
Okay, I walked through this, but I think it's a little easier to explain this way. So looking at this animation, we're gonna slide our axle through one side of the Badger loop, and you can put in one of the pins or the R-clips, depending which you have. Then you're gonna wanna put washers, your wheel, and the washer on the other side of the Badger loop. So you have one wheel in. You're not gonna put a pin in though, because you need to be able to slide it out a little bit further. So we're gonna push it up until you get a little bit of resistance on that wheel. And then you're gonna actually kind of wedge it a little bit. You're gonna put in a pin on the inner part of the other wheel's position. And then you're gonna add in the washer, wheel, and washer. And then you're gonna move it back down and you're gonna slide that axle back up through the other Badger loop. Then you can put in both of the other remaining pins to secure and properly install the axle. That's a lot faster than the 10 minutes it took me to actually do all those steps. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, just leave us a comment or shoot us a call.
Real quick, just to show this again. So we'll take our pin, slide it through our hole. There, that's holding it up at least, so we can just grab these two separate pieces. We're gonna split them, and I'm just gonna try to wrap them around. Beautiful. I kind of like this split approach because it does seem to be a little bit more of a durable grabbing it and bending it. Good to go. Awesome. And now we can put in that last R-clip on the bottom. So again, pins or clips, depends what you came with, and both are fine, both will work. If you prefer the R-style clip, I think it's a little easier to remove it. I got about 150 of those at the hardware store for $5. Now we're gonna lift our machine back up. So next step, I'm gonna throw the liner in just because it's a little easier to put that in, obviously before your motor. Pop this in here. I'm gonna take off this little clip here. You might have an issue like I did where This black top cap is a little hard to take off. All right, we got our thread exposed on the top. That's our M14 mount. Got our motor mount. So we're gonna put our motor mount in, clamp it up. When I do this, I go either the middle or the top. I don't really remember which one it actually is supposed to be on this, so I'm gonna go for the middle one, I think, at this point. There we go. We're gonna be using a Ruby mixer today. Depending on the cuff size, obviously where it's at, you're gonna want it to be at least, hopefully, an inch above. Grabbing my Ruby mixer here. So Ruby, we've used a couple of different Ruby mixers in our Badgers before, and they're just a great fit for this product. So shout out to Ruby, snugging it against this to see how high up. And we have enough clearance, so I think this will actually be fine. So I'm just gonna loosen this real quick. I'm gonna put the paddle on here. So we don't do quick release paddles. I know there's some companies out there that do. What most self-levelers tell us about those quick releases is if they're doing enough product, they're gonna muck up. They're gonna get, pretty much gunked to the point where they're useless. With smaller batch machines, it does make a little bit more sense potentially. So nothing against it, we've always been historically high capacity company is our focus, so, and reliability is key for that. Yeah, that's pretty tight already. All right, slip that through, pull down to the cuff. Now this is where it can get kind of tricky. So I like to actually tighten it to where I have a little bit of flex still and can kind of move it around myself. This next part's gonna be pretty key. All right, a little bit more. Just where it's fighting me a little bit so it doesn't just drop the second I let go. All right, so the key with this paddle placement and in terms of how we're locking in our motor, you can see how I can move it up here and I'm almost touching the front part of the liner. You can see how I move it back here. We're way too far back. So the goal is gonna be to center it up. So I'm centering it at the bottom of our canister. This will ensure that we're actually getting proper vortex as we're mixing. I'm gonna tighten it pretty tight, as tight as I can from behind. So then I actually come to the front side, it lets me get a little bit more leverage on it to get that fully tightened in to where that thing's not gonna go anywhere. And it's good to go. So that is the full Badger assembly. So Portamix has its own hand mixers available, but the issue is that most of our hand mixers are actually too powerful for a Badger system like this. We're gonna want like a lower torque mixer, and that's why these Rubies are a really good fit. We will hopefully down the line come out with a couple with locking switches that are lower RPMs, but for now we highly recommend Ruby. The whole point of the Badger is it really doesn't matter which hand mixer you're using, meet you where you're at and what you're comfortable with. You'll see some scuff marks on ours because when we turn it on, we actually use a C-clamp just to lock it in place, just to get the same effect of hands-free mixing. And if you are using a new product that you haven't mixed before, no matter what mixing station you're using, and you know the mixing station's max capacity, always start like a bag below or where you're comfortable with, and then scale up as needed as you're seeing where the product's fitting during the mix. You know, if it's 2 inches off the top, probably don't add another bag unless you want to have a huge mess. Maybe you're into that. But if it's, a foot off the top, cool. I think another bag would be fine to explore and see if that works. But also you have to keep in mind, it's not necessarily just about capacity. It's you're gonna have to wheel, and this machine actually will move as you're wheeling it. So you actually want a little bit more clearance than you would with our other machines. So keeping that in mind, same process otherwise. So if we're doing a 2-bag mix, we're gonna add 1 bag. We're gonna turn the machine off and scrape anything that missed. Turn it on, make sure it's on high speed. You're gonna add that 2nd bag and then let it burp after about 30 seconds. Then mix it on a timer for the total mixing time for a single bag that the manufacturer recommends. So after that, you are good to go. So you're gonna wheel this. You just tilt back and wheel. You're gonna get to your pour space, and to pour the product, you're just gonna tip it on the legs on the front. And you actually can, if you want, grab the back of the frame for support. But once it hits that front of the frame, then you just have a fulcrum to easy pivot between the leg and the front of the frame. So that is pretty much it for the Badger. It's a very new product still, just released, just hit stock. So we're excited to see all the different options people come up with for it, what people start mixing it with, and we're very open to feedback. So however you feel about our products, always reach out to us. We're actually, we're a very open company and like to have good relationships with all of our customers. So thank you for watching this, and until next time, keep mixing with the best.